I would go to your kids, no matter how old they are. Maybe they're already grown adults and you're listening and you made some mistakes. It's never too late for repentance. It's never too late for confession. It's never too late to begin to try to make things right with your kids. You may think it is. You may think they're too old, that you've made too many mistakes. But I promise you that if you just go and open up to them, it's going to bring so much healing to them.
What's up? Brett Snodgrass here with Iron Deep Podcast. Got Josh Howard on the episode with me again. What's going on, Josh?
What is up, man? Good to be back.
Yeah, man. Super excited for this particular episode as well. We just had introduced Josh. He's a new member of the Iron Deep organization. He just moved to the States from India, where he's been at for 16 years, just moved to Indiana, and we're excited to have him. So you're going to see his face more on the Iron Deep podcast. He's going to be part of the content from Iron Deep. So let's make sure we welcome him with open arms, reach out to him. His email is going to be josh@irondeep.com. So we're going to get that set up, but he's brand new to the organization, but he's not brand new to Iron Deep. He's actually been on this as a guest a couple times before, just talking about his mission and discipleship making in India and church planting. So make sure you check out the past episodes with Josh Howard. And this particular episode, Josh, sometimes we go deep and we go real serious on our episodes, just some of the darker things maybe men struggle with, and we really go to penetrate the heart of men in this world and really just try to talk to them in just a real and raw way about some of the things that they're facing as a businessman or as a husband or as a father, and we're just trying to encourage them. This is a little bit different. We're going to go a little bit lighthearted, guys, and this is really just kind of titled The Fun of Fatherhood, and most of the men listening to this are fathers, and I don't know about you, Josh, but when I think of fatherhood and all the things that I've done in my life, all the experiences that I've done, or projects or businesses that we've scaled or led, or ministries that we've done, and I think of one of the most challenging things, I would probably label fatherhood as the most challenging, honestly, as of all the things that I've done. And it can be a very challenging thing, and we can talk about that. We're probably going to have other episodes of the different challenges of fatherhood. But this is just about fun, right? And I think that one thing, I don't know about you, but for me, I lose some of the fun of fatherhood because I'm always trying to be so serious and my kids to behave a certain way, and we have to have this perfect family and all these different things, and I put so much pressure on myself that it just sucks the fun out of it, right? Would you kind of relate to that a little bit? And I don't know about your own family, but maybe you're not like me. I don't know.
No, absolutely, bro. Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of one of my favorite comedians is Brian Regan. I don't know if you listen to him, but he has a bit he does about one of his kids slurping up a spaghetti noodle from his plate, and it just whipped everywhere and shot the sauce on the wall and all that. And he got really upset with his kid. And he was like, I made a mistake. I know I made a mistake, because he was like, I basically said, don't you understand that the paint on the walls is more important than the joy in your heart?
That is so
like,
true.
How often do we fall into that, bro? Where it's like, the kids are having fun doing something, but maybe they're disturbing something we're trying to focus on, and we get upset, but they're just having fun. They're not doing anything wrong. And so it's so easy, I think, to take ourselves too seriously, to get hard on our kids when that we really shouldn't be. And so, yeah, I mean, I definitely relate. I want to be fun. I want to be I want my kids to love being around me, but there's times where, depending on what's going on, bro, they don't always get fun dad,
Get the fun dad, yeah. It's true. It just kind of reminds me of, and you guys think about this as you think about your own, as a father, some of the kids that your kids might make a mistake. And it reminds me, I have a son named Gavin. He's 9 years old, and he's my most, I think, adventurous child. He always goes against the grain. Like, whatever you want him to say, he just just to kind of push your button a little bit, he's going to say the opposite of what you think he should say, or do the opposite. And he's always pushing the envelope. For example, like I said, he's 9 and we have a golf cart. We drive around our communities a little bit. We drive to the community pool and things like that. But again, he's 9 years old and I let him drive the golf cart when I'm with him, particularly. But there's also cars on our streets and things like that. Well, me and my wife the other day, we were wanting to take a walk and he wanted to drive the golf cart. And I said, hey, buddy, we'll drive it after I get home. Let me walk with my wife. We're going to take a little bit of walk just so we can have some time together and talk. And all of a sudden, my wife, we're walking in our particular neighborhood, and then we're walking back towards our house. And here's my 9-year-old backing the golf cart out of the driveway on his own into the streets, thinking, I'm just gonna take a spin. Right?
I don't care what you said, Dad. I'm ready to drive this thing.
Right? I don't think he really thought about it. And that was just a fun moment. And again, you put the serious dad hat on, like, what are you doing? You're 9 years old. You're gonna hurt yourself. You're gonna hit a mailbox. You're gonna hit a car, or like you're just gonna embarrass me because I'm letting my 9-year-old drive around the neighborhood. And again, he's my most adventurous one. Another one was kind of a serious moment. My parents they took us on a trip on their 50th wedding anniversary a couple of weeks ago. And Gavin, and he has a cousin named Alex, and they're kind of like two peas in a pod. They're always hanging out, and they love to find little critters, little lizards, and all these different things. So we're in Florida, and he's finding all these lizards. So we got like 5 or 6 of these lizards that they put into this little container. They put holes in it, and these lizards are kind of living in there. And this home happened to have a swimming pool in it. And we told them, make sure you don't let the lizards out, so they get into the pool. And lo and behold, we wake up one day and the lizards are literally swimming in the swimming pool. And my mom, she's getting upset, and we're kind of all like, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe you do this. But at the same time, I'm like, that's going to probably be a funny story later on, that he let the lizards out in the swimming pool at my parents' 50th wedding anniversary trip. And it was kind of a big ordeal. So that's just like some of the things, again, when I look back, just some of the childhood things. But like, Josh, I'll kind of pass it over to you. Again, this is just more of a stories, but that's some of the things that, like, maybe I take my fatherhood so seriously, but when I look back, I'm kind of chuckling on the inside of what some of my kids are doing, because I look back and see what I did, as a kid.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely, man. I mean, I think we always need to keep that into perspective, like that if it's not going to matter in a couple days, sometimes we, like you just said, we take things so seriously in the moment, but then realize, in a couple hours, this doesn't actually matter. Like what I'm getting upset right now about in a couple days or a week, now there are some things where they definitely will matter.
Right.
And, if our kids are doing something that's life threatening or whatever, then we need to make sure that they're okay. I remember one time my son, he was maybe 4 or 5, and I was getting ready to go preach at a church, and my wife had her straightener on, right? Her hair straightener. And my son reached out to grab it, but it was hot, right? And so my wife screamed like, no, Josiah, and almost tried to smack his hand away. And it scared him so much that he started crying and was upset. And I came to him and I said, buddy, mommy was just she didn't want you to burn your hand, man. And he was like, she could have said it nicely.
Right.
I'm like, okay, there are times you say things nicely. And then there are times, buddy, where you're getting ready to burn your hand off, and we need to scream and make sure that you're okay, But anyway, I do think though, there are times where, if it's something small and it really doesn't matter that much. I remember my mom, man, I know we're talking about fatherhood, but I grew up in a home that was a divorced home, a broken home. I grew up with my mom, and my mom, man, was a rock star single mom. And the way that she raised me, bro, I never remember her getting super overly frustrated and angry at me over little things. Like
Mm.
I never remember her, letting going off the handle over something stupid where I like, hey, I really didn't do anything. Like the crime that I didn't match the punishment. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like
Yeah.
I never felt that way. And honestly, I don't know that I can say the same thing with my fatherhood. I think there's going to be memories of my kids when they look back where it's like, actually, there were a couple times dad was pretty on edge and got upset about things he probably shouldn't have or whatever. But with my mom, man, I never remember that. And it's such a beautiful thing to just take life easy, to be easygoing, to not be overly on edge all the time, to really just kind of take things as they come, and rather than rather than escalating the situation, what can we do as fathers to de-escalate the situation, and to make sure that it doesn't blow up? I wish I would have learned that more from my mom, honestly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we gotta keep getting better at it.
Yeah. Now I love what you mentioned too, that, and I don't do this well, and I'm a really easygoing person, and I don't like conflict that much. I don't like getting upset, uh, arguing about different things. And honestly, when I was a teacher, so right after I graduated college, if you guys know my story a little bit, I taught school for about a year. And I didn't enjoy teaching. And really, I remember this vaguely. I said, I don't enjoy teaching because I don't enjoy always having to be on the kids all the time. Like, I don't like that environment. And I felt like I was always having to put a very firm foot down and get on them because they weren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. And I said, I don't like that part of me. And then a lot of that comes out as a father. And I was reading a book, a couple of months ago about fatherhood. I think it's parenting, getting it right. And it talked about yelling, for example, and it said, the only times you should yell is if there's maybe some sort of an emergency, like the curling iron, or like maybe they're running into the particular street. I think he even mentioned in the particular book that one of his children had gotten lost at the store, and the brother came and he was yelling for them in that certain emergency, and that's when you should maybe yell if there's an emergency, and maybe not yell, and maybe make that a common, just a common conversation in the home. And I can find our homes, like, the voices kind of get raised, and that again sucks the fun out of it. So maybe I look at my own life, like, really, was that an emergency, or was that a yelling thing, or was that just boys being boys, and or
Yeah.
girls being girls being girls, and it's not an emergency. So that's just one thing that it kind of
Good.
brought to my mind for you when you were talking about the situation with your son. Some other things I just want to go. I one of the very fun things that I've done, that I've actually become a part of, is I love doing adventures and taking my kids on certain types of adventures and just trying to get a rhythm of adventures. One of the things that I've loved taking my kids to certain type of camps. That's one of the fun things that we've been able to do. There's an organization called Dad Camp, which is, you come to the States, Josh, I think would be just a great thing to kind of come to. It's one time you can take your son or your daughter to this particular camp. They teach you how to be a better dad, and you get to spend just an amazing fun and adventures with your son or daughter. You're doing zip lining and tall ropes courses, and just fun, whatever sport, dodgeball, just doing slip and slide, just stuff like that. And those are some of the fun memories that I've been able to do well with my children so far. And one of the things that they do, one of their core values, I guess they would say, is make sure you say yes to your son or daughter this particular weekend, because we're so used to saying no all the time. Don't touch that. Don't do that. No. Can I do this, Dad? No. And I guess if I look at my own life,
Yep.
I'm like, how many times do I say no to my kids versus I say yes? And what can you say yes to? So how can you build that environment of fun that you can say yes more often? And I'll kind of pass that over to you, Josh. Like, that's the one thing that I think, what can I say yes to? Because I love to do that. Can I do that, Dad? Yes, right? I mean, it just feels good. It
Yep.
feels awesome. Will you do this with me, Dad? Yes, because a lot of times is no, dad's too busy. Dad's got his own agenda.
Right.
So no, I can't take you fishing because I got my stuff to do, right? It's just an
Right.
example. So,
Right. Yeah. One fun thing that we did, man, around that idea, there was a movie that came out several years ago. I think it was actually called Yes Day.
mm-hmm.
And the whole thing was about the family could not, like, the parents couldn't say no to anything the kids wanted to do. And so they built out like an entire list of things they wanted to do for the day. And it ends up being an incredibly crazy day or whatever. But one
Right.
thing, one,
It's like they're
yeah,
it's like they're playing video games, eating cotton candy, drinking, a Slurpee.
right. So, so it's a funny movie, but after that, we actually did a yes day with our kids after we watched that movie. Now we made some very clear guidelines on on what they could ask for and what they couldn't. But it was basically a day where they could kind of build out what they wanted to do for the day. And the way we did it is we approved the agenda for the day in advance. And they built it out, and we made guidelines in advance, and then they kind of built it out, and we just every part of the day it was yes, we're going to do this, and had fun doing it. And it was an incredible day, man. Like we had a blast, and we had a great time doing stuff. And it doesn't even have to be something where you spend massive amounts of money. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like some of the things were just fun games the kids wanted to play, and different places they wanted to go, and to the park, and to do this and to do that. And just it was a really cool thing. I would honestly, we've only done it once, and it makes me think, we should maybe make that even more of a rhythm in our
Mm-hmm.
in our lives, like have a day or two a year that we do something like that, just extra and fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I notice myself, man, in the daily grind, my initial reaction to most requests is like my immediate reaction is a no most of the
Mm-hmm.
time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I've got this, or no, I've got that, or no, we're getting ready to eat, or no, we can't. Like it's like that's kind of our built-in reaction to any requests that our kids have most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important, like you said, man, for us to kind of break that, and make room for us to be able to say yes to more things. And so that yes day was kind of a cool way to basically try to break that, at least for a day, and say we're gonna do everything you want to do today, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
And so anyway,
That's
yep,
awesome. No, I love that. Yes, day. I'm writing that down. So if you guys are listening in, write down some of these different ideas. Again, I mentioned dad camp, just doing some adventures, building that. That's a yearly rhythm for us. I get to spend that one-on-one time with my kids. I have 4 children, so it's hard to get that one-on-one time with them. Well, this is it's already scheduled in. It's already penciled in that I know I get to have one-on-one time with them. That's already kind of a program built in that they're already going to have so much fun. Some other resources, again, Josh talked about Yes Day. That's an awesome resource. Another resource is some good friends of mine, Jim and Jamie Shields. They have a podcast called 18 Summers, and they've written a book about some of this concepts of 18 summers. And again, my daughter's going to be a senior, so this is obviously coming fresh to mind. So she's 17, going to be turning 18, in about 6 months, and now it's time. Like, wow, that went fast. 18 summers, right? And what are some of the fun things and memories that I've been able to do with her? And I wanted to mention one thing is, a lot of businessmen are listening to this particular one, is something that's been on my heart is what can I do to help bring them in and teach them about just entrepreneurship and business and things of that nature. And this summer I've been probably more intentional about that with her coming into her senior year than I've done in the past. And what does it look like? So we flip houses, we buy and sell houses, and so we bought a house. We bought a house in my local community, and we decided to flip this particular house. And if you guys know me, like, I don't do a lot of the physical work in the particular houses any longer. I used to do that 10 years ago, but I don't do that any longer because I'm setting the vision and I'm running the business and all that. But for her sake, she needed a summer job, so she was going to get a summer job anyways. So instead of getting a summer job at Subway or Crumble Cookie, which she's had in the past, or whatever that looks like, I said, hey, let's flip this particular house together, and let's do that. And do you have anybody else that wants to do it with you because I was like, hey, she'd be more likely to do it if she brought a friend with her. So we bought this house. We're in our 4th week now, flipping this house, and it's a lot of fun. She literally has paint on her, dust and paint and grime. Never seen her like this. Every single day. And it's just a lot of fun. She's learning some skills, and they love it, right? They would much rather do this, particularly. And I get to, and it's hard to spend that time with your 17-year-old right now. That if I wasn't doing this particular project, they're having fun, I'm having fun. And that's just one thing to help bring her into the business to learn these skills. But dad also gets to hang out with my daughter. That's just an example. So I would ask you guys, if you guys are owning this business, can you bring your kids more into your business to teach them some of these skills, or your ministry? That's just one thing. Another thing that I did with my daughter is we had a couples event for Iron Deep about a month ago. Brought in couples. We had this huge. We rented out this place. We had about 11 couples there, but I wanted some people to help, right? To help serve, to help in the background. Well, again, I said, hey, I asked my 17-year-old daughter, would you like to come serve at this particular event? And would you like to bring a friend? Because again, she'd be more likely to come if she brought a friend with her. And they did, and they loved it. And so again, helping bring, that was more of a ministry thing, bring your kids into that world, into that ministry. And Josh, I want to ask you, you've been a missionary, you've planted churches, you've done some amazing different things in your ministry. You've also been a serial entrepreneur. Started, some businesses, but have you done anything just to bring your kids into that world? Or it might even be like, I don't even know what you're talking about. We all do this all the time. This is just what our family does. But can you give us some
Yeah,
examples on
right.
your end?
Yeah, I mean, I would say living on the mission field, they are a part of everything all the time. I mean, like we would, especially with my in-laws organization, we would have distribution camps for widows and villages, or distribution for kids that were impoverished and stuff like that. They were always a part of stuff like that. Like they'd be handing out the rice to the widows, or they'd be handing out clothes to kids that were without it. One year even, as my boys got a little bit older, they had all these like little kid toys that they never played with anymore. And they ended up getting them all together, all the toys they didn't play with anymore. And we went out to a local village and had a distribution with all the kids in the village, where they got to hand out all their toys that they didn't play with anymore to younger kids out there, where the kids in the village could pick toys and stuff like that. And so I would say that is a benefit of living on the mission field, is that the kids are a part of a lot of what we do. Now, one thing that I did start doing with my son, and this is something a little bit separate, but he really started to get, my oldest son, Josiah, he started to really get into like video. And he's dreaming of being a movie director in the future and stuff like that. And so when he was younger, I really started just working with him, because I had a background on like photography and editing and stuff like that. And so I would just sit him down, and we would make little films together, and teach him how to edit and stuff like that. And then he started, I mean, he is so much better than me now, bro. I mean, he kills it. He's unbelievable. And is just doing an incredible work with all that. But really, also looking at what their interests are. And even if I'm not doing that anymore with my job or in my life, but seeing that, oh, my son has this interest in this area. So why don't we do it together for a season, and try to make sure that it's something that he's really interested in. And things like that. My middle child really just recently got into speed cubing, like Rubik's cubes, doing them super fast. Um, and because I grew up in a broken home, it's really important to me that I'm at stuff for my kids, and I want to be there. And so, for example, my son had his first Rubik's Cube competition in Indianapolis a few months ago, where he went and actually competed for speed cubing and all that. I was actually preaching in a different city the night before the event, and the event was the following morning at I think we had to be there like at 8:30, and I was preaching at like 8 p.m. Friday night, about 6 hours away.
Wow.
And so basically, man, I flew a friend to, I was in Memphis. I flew a friend of mine to Memphis to be there with me Friday night. We rented a car so that he could drive me back and I could sleep at night to get back from my son's competition. Like,
Wow.
because I want to be at everything I can be. I don't want to miss stuff. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And so I also think not only bringing our kids into our world, but also us making sure we're getting into their world too is really important.
Yeah.
And so what are they interested in? What are they enjoying? And how can we, even if we don't necessarily know much about it, or we may not be able to do it very much, but being there, doing it with them, supporting them, I think both of those are really, really important.
Yeah.
Just in order to make sure that they're a part of our world and we're a part of their world and what their interests are.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I think that's really, really important. And a lot of times your kids aren't interested in the particular things that you're interested in. You want them to be interested in something, but maybe they're not. And I think
Yeah.
my boys. I was kind of a sports guy growing up. My dad was a high school basketball coach. I played basketball. I played college basketball. So I was all about kind of basketball, sports teams, and things like that. And my one son, I mentioned Gavin, and I have another son named Ethan. We've done some different basketball, and even my oldest daughter. But honestly, at the end of the day, I don't know if that's really their thing. I don't think that they're really super interested in it, but they're interested in more in building things. Engineer types of things. My son Ethan loves to build Legos, imagination, and loves to do things like that. He also loves they love kind of business stuff, and he's having a limit. During the summer he has a lemonade stand like every 3 days, right? So he's knocking on doors
That's
and doing
awesome.
stuff like that. And then my one son Gavin, he's really into robotics. So again, I don't know anything about robotics. My engineer mind doesn't know anything about any of that stuff, but that's just what he's kind of into. He takes apart toys that and tries to build a robot out of it, right? So it's like I have no idea, anything about that. But to be interested in that is something. He's also really into fishing, and I didn't grow up fishing, so fishing's a little bit new to me. I will fish, but I'm not the guy out there that can spend 4 hours and fish, right? But he's really into it, so that's another thing. I was like, hey, I want to lean into that. And what does that kind of look like? Just again, what is he interested in? So I'm really good at the big things, and I've said this maybe on a different podcast. I'm good at some of the big things that I've mentioned. Going on the yearly dad camps. I've taken my daughter. My older daughter, we went on this California, it's called JH Ranch Adventure Camp. That was cool. I've done daddy-daughter dances. I've done dad-daughter, dad-son types of big adventure trips. I've done a lot of stuff like that, and I'm good at the big things, the planning out things, but sometimes it's the day-to-day consistency that I kind of struggle with. And you mentioned this, it doesn't have to be this big thing. It could just be some of those small things and saying yes to those daily activities. And I always love when my kids are together and you're just hearing them laugh about whatever. It doesn't have to be anything. There's just something about the innocence of the laughter of a child, and I think that's why the God calls us, right, to be, Jesus says, to be like this child can enter in the kingdom of heaven. And what is that? I always like, what does that kind of look like? And I think it's just that innocence of just the innocent joy and the innocent of a new believer, right? It's just everything's new and they're curious, and the wonder of a child. I just, I love to see that coming out in my own children. What does that look like on a daily basis? So, Josh, can you kind of give a little bit of a context, even of your own home, like talking to the men out there? Like, we've talked about some of the big things, but is there some of the daily things, the small things, the rhythm, the routine that even can seem monotonous at times, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think I struggle with similar stuff, Brett. I'm better at like the planning stuff and in the doing bigger things or whatever. Some of the more ongoing daily things though, honestly, like my kids love watching YouTube videos and funny things and stuff like that. And so even if it's just sitting with them for 5 or 10 minutes and watching some funny videos that you can quote later with them and joke around with them, that keeps things fun in the house. I remember when I was in junior high and high school, that's basically my entire conversations with my friends were quoting movies and quoting TV shows. I mean,
Me too.
that's literally all we would
That was
do.
like your whole
Um,
conversation. Like they'd quote something, then you quote something, and
yes, that was it.
then
And so
and the girls
doing
would
stuff
look at
like
you like,
that,
what are you guys talking about? They never know any of this lines.
yes, exactly, exactly. And so just even doing stuff like that with the kids every day or every few days, just watching funny stuff, quoting it with them later, whether it's YouTube videos or TV shows or whatever, or when they're really young, just sitting and playing with them for a few minutes means the world to them. And like my daughter, she is really into baby dolls right now and stuff. And so there are times she literally just wants me to sit with her and hold her little baby doll, and we're just sitting there together holding the baby dolls and acting like we've got two babies, or
Right.
whatever. And so I think those daily little things that we may think are really small that aren't that big of a deal, it builds up over time where your kids remember that you were there, you played with them, that they have those memories as they get older of us on the floor, like you mentioned, on the floor building Legos or holding baby dolls or watching funny videos and laughing together and stuff like that. I think it's just small things, being present, being there for them, and making sure that every day that we're giving them love and attention and a hug and just I think presence, honestly, bro, is such a huge part of consistency in being a dad
Yeah.
is just being there for them and being around and it's just little things.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that you're exactly right. Sometimes we think we have to say the right thing or do the right thing. And again, sometimes you don't have to say anything. It's just being there and being present with him and not being distracted with your own agenda, right? And I think in today's world, especially in the States, that we can really get into that very distracted mode, and just we can constantly be entertained with whatever.
Well, especially on our phones, man.
Yeah.
Like my daughter, she's 5, but man, she'll put me in my place, bro. Like if I'm sitting there, if she wants me to be holding that baby doll and I'm on my phone, like,
Yep.
Daddy, put your phone away and hold the baby, or
Right.
whatever. Like,
Yes,
okay,
exactly.
yes, ma'am.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, hope you guys enjoyed this particular episode. This is really just a lighthearted, fun episode. How to have fun with your kids as a father. Some of the things I wrote down is how can you build that environment to say yes to your kids? Right? I would love to just take an inventory of this week. Like, how many times do you say no? How many times do you say yes? How can you think about it? Because our immediate response is no. Think about it, and what can you say yes to? Plan the adventures. I'm not saying, I love the big things. I love the adventures, and the kids love that. And part of that is just the anticipation. Oh, Dad's going to take me here this particular weekend, and you talk about it, and that's part of the fun. It's just that anticipation of that adventure. And I love, that's my niche. That's what I really love doing, but also doing that daily presence, that daily fun. Again, what can you say yes to? And then just that daily interaction, holding the baby doll, taking your kid out back fishing, whatever it looks like. Just that daily fun. One of the things that, again, we like to watch old videos of themselves on like my phone, right, when they were 2, and that's just fun. They think it's hilarious how they talked, and it's crazy. Dads are impactful at the end of the day. And we'll have other episodes on that of the impact of a man in the home, a godly man in the home, of how you're modeling that behavior. Is most of the time they're going to want to, if as sons, they're going to want to be like you, or they might not say it now, but they will be like you. And daughters might want to be with a man like you, right? So what does that look like in your home? And are you walking that walk? It's hard. So you have to be extremely intentional. And are you just too distracted to have fun with your kids? You have your own agenda, your own seriousness, the pressure of the business, the family, the finances, all the things kind of weighing on your shoulder. You just forgot to have fun. So hopefully this is a great reminder for you guys out there. Make sure you have fun with your families. It is a huge blessing. Like what an amazing blessing that God gave us to actually live in family. Like He didn't have to do that, right? We could have just not done that, and not did it this way. He could have had a lot of other ideas, but he decided to put that in, and it's such a blessing, and have pleasure with your family in your youth. So, any last feedback, Josh, as we wrap up today?
No, I think this was great, bro. And for those of you listening that are dads that are out there, I mean, maybe some of you have made some mistakes. Maybe you haven't been around. Honestly, this is what I want to encourage you. I would go to your kids no matter how old they are. Maybe they're already grown adults and you're listening and you made some mistakes. It's never too late for repentance. It's never too late for confession. It's never too late to begin to try to make things right with your kids. You may think it is. You may think they're too old, that you've made too many mistakes. But I promise you that if you just go and open up to them, it's going to bring so much healing to them. And so if you're there and you feel like you've made some mistakes, confess that, repent of it, start new right now, man. And if your kids are still young and you've got a chance to be there, man, make sure that you're around. Make sure you go to their games. You're at their recitals. You're present in their lives. You're having fun with them. And let's do everything that we can to really be the best dads possible, so that our kids grow up to be godly men and women who have a role model to look up to. And like Brett just said, your boys are going to want to be like you, and your daughters are going to want a man like you if you do this right. And there's nothing more beautiful than that. And so anyway, just to encourage you guys.
Amen. And that's a good word, Josh. Thanks for that. As we wrap up this particular Iron Deep episode, guys, make sure you check out irondeep.com. We're putting our events on there. We have an event coming up this year called the Men's Awakening. That if you want to check out Iron Deep, that's just a great way to come. I'd love to just meet you. It's a small group of guys. It's not this huge conference in this hotel room. It's a small group of guys. We really get to know each other through that. That's in September 22nd through 25th. And make sure you can apply on irondeep.com. And it's a wrap. Thanks, Josh, for being on the episode today. We'll see you guys later. God bless you.